The birth of the Leviathan. Commander Elena Rice stared at the holographic display floating before her, the blue light washing over her weathered face. 20 years in the Earth Naval Forces had carved deep lines around her eyes and mouth, but nothing had prepared her for what she was seeing now. "It's beautiful," she whispered, reaching up to rotate the display with a flick of her wrist. The massive warship rotated slowly, its sleek, predatory lines unlike anything humanity had built before. "We call it the Leviathan," said Dr. Marcus Chen, lead engineer of Project Prometheus. "It's the culmination of everything we've learned since first contact." Elena walked around the display, studying every angle of the ship and the phase-shifting technology. "It works." Marcus nodded, his eyes gleaming with pride. "Better than we hoped. The quantum displacement field allows the Leviathan to exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime. In practical terms, it can't be hit," Elena finished for him. "Not exactly, but close enough. Conventional weapons pass through it when the field is active, and the ship can transition between states almost instantaneously." Elena watched as the simulation demonstrated the technology, the massive vessel seeming to flicker and shift between reality and something else, not quite invisible, but untouchable. "The Galactic Council will have a fit when they learn about this," she said. Marcus's expression hardened. "Let them. They've kept us on a technological leash since first contact. Humanity isn't ready for advanced propulsion. Humans are too aggressive for gravity manipulation. Meanwhile, our colonies on Proxima Centauri and Tau Ceti suffer pirate attacks that Council ships always arrive too late to prevent." Elena understood his bitterness. The Galactic Council, comprised of the 7 oldest spacefaring races, had presented themselves as mentors when humanity achieved FTL travel 30 years ago. Their guidance had seemed benevolent at first, helping establish colonies, facilitating trade, providing technological insights, with limits. Those limits had become increasingly frustrating as humanity expanded. The Council vetoed research into certain technologies, citing historical dangers and necessary developmental stages. Meanwhile, 3 human colonies had been raided in the past year alone, with critical supplies stolen and lives lost. "Admiral Zhao wants the Leviathan operational within 6 months," Elena said. "I've been assigned as her captain." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Congratulations, Captain, but 6 months is ambitious, even for us." "Make it happen, Doctor." Earth Command believes the Council's patience with our independent streak is wearing thin. We need the Leviathan ready before they decide to apply more direct methods of control. 3 weeks later, Elena's fears were realized when a Galactic Council delegation arrived unannounced at Earth's orbital headquarters. High Counselor Zivtal, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin that shifted between deep blue and purple, led the delegation. His species, the Fortani, had been among the first to achieve interstellar travel over 10,000 years ago. "Admiral Zhao." Zivtal's voice was melodious, but cold as he addressed Earth's highest-ranking naval officer. "Our long-range sensors have detected unusual quantum fluctuations originating from your Titan shipyards. These energy signatures are consistent with prohibited research." Admiral Zhao, a compact woman whose calm demeanor belied her strategic brilliance, merely smiled. "The Titan facility conducts various research projects, Counselor. Perhaps if you shared your sensor data, we could identify which experiment triggered your concerns." Elena, standing at attention behind the Admiral, kept her face carefully neutral despite her racing heart. The Council shouldn't have been able to detect the phase-shifting tests. Marcus had assured them the quantum shielding would mask the energy signatures. Zivtal's skin darkened to indigo, a sign of displeasure in Fortani physiology. "Admiral, the Treaty of Seoul explicitly forbids development of phase manipulation technology by pre-Council species. The dangers are well documented in galactic history, a history we have limited access to," Zhao countered. "And Earth is not a signatory to the Treaty of Seoul. We were invited to join the galactic community, not subjugate ourselves to it." The council delegation exchanged glances, all 6 species represented showing their equivalent of alarm. A reptilian Drex with copper scales leaned forward, its vertical pupils narrowing to slits. "The restrictions exist to protect developing species," it hissed. "The quantum wars nearly destroyed all intelligent life in this arm of the galaxy 5 millennia ago. Some technologies cannot be allowed to proliferate. Yet the council races retain these technologies for themselves," Zhao observed. "Under strict controls," Zivtal insisted. "We request immediate inspection of your Titan facility." "Request denied," Zhao said pleasantly. "Earth sovereignty extends to all our facilities in the Sol system. Then perhaps we should reconsider the protection agreements for your extrasolar colonies," the Drex suggested, its forked tongue flicking between sharp teeth. Alina stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Is that a threat, Counselor Saren?" Admiral Zhao shot her a warning look, but Alina continued. "Because the Council's protection has been remarkably ineffective lately. 3 raids on Proxima Centauri, 2 on Ta City. Each time, Council vessels arrive hours after the pirates leave." Saren's scales rippled with irritation. "The galaxy is vast, Commander. Even with our technology, we cannot be everywhere. Interesting that the pirates seem to know exactly when you won't be present," Alina replied. "That's enough, Commander Reyes," Admiral Zhao cut in sharply. Turning back to the delegation, she continued more diplomatically. "What my officer means is that Earth must take responsibility for protecting its citizens. If the Council has concerns about our research, there are proper diplomatic channels to address them." The meeting ended in a stalemate, but the message was clear. The Council suspected Project Prometheus and disapproved. As the delegation departed, Zhao pulled Elena aside. "They know about the Leviathan," the Admiral said without preamble. "How much do they know?" "Enough to be concerned. Accelerate the timeline. I want that ship operational in 3 months." Elena's eyes widened. "Admiral," Marcus says, "I don't care what Dr. Chen says. Tell him to do whatever it takes. The Leviathan is no longer just a defensive asset. It's our insurance policy." Over the next 12 weeks, the Titan shipyards operated at maximum capacity. Personnel worked around the clock. Components were fabricated and installed at record speed, and testing protocols were abbreviated or conducted in parallel rather than sequentially. Alina practically lived at the facility, overseeing systems integration and crew training simultaneously. Marcus worked himself to exhaustion, his brilliance pushing the boundaries of what seemed possible. 3 days before the new deadline, disaster struck. Alina was in the command center when the emergency alarms blared. The main view screen showed multiple unidentified ships dropping out of FTL near Proxima Centauri. "Analysis," she barked. 15 vessels, Captain, her tactical officer reported. "Configuration matches previous pirate attacks, but the fleet size is unprecedented. Where's the nearest Council patrol?" According to their published schedule, 2 light days out, they can't possibly respond in time. Elena watched in horror as the pirate fleet moved toward New Haven, the largest human settlement in the Proxima system with over 50,000 colonists. She hit the comm panel. "Marcus, I need the Leviathan now." "Elena, we haven't completed final systems checks. The phase-shifting drive hasn't been tested at full power, and the weapons integration is only at 80%. "Those are my people on New Haven," Elena said, her voice deadly calm. "How long?" A pause. 6 hours to minimum operational capacity. "But I need to be on board to monitor the phase drive. If it destabilizes, do it." Admiral Zhao authorized the emergency launch, and 6 hours later, Elena stood on the bridge of the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. The Leviathan hummed with power, systems coming online as the skeleton crew of 200, all volunteers, prepared for their first FTL jump. "Phase drive online," Marcus reported from engineering, his voice tense. "But I'm getting fluctuations in the containment field. We should run more diagnostics before." "No time," Elena cut him off. The pirates have already begun landing troops at New Haven. Set course for Proxima Centauri, maximum speed. The Leviathan's revolutionary drive engaged, and the massive warship disappeared from the Sol system in a flash of blue light. When they emerged from FTL at the edge of the Proxima system, the tactical display showed the situation had deteriorated. 3 pirate vessels were in low orbit, dropping assault shuttles, while the remaining ships formed a blockade. Energy signatures are consistent with Council military technology, the tactical officer reported, his voice confused. But these aren't Council ships. Alina's suspicions crystallized into certainty. They don't need to be Council ships if the Council is supplying the pirates with their technology. She turned to the weapons officer. Target the vessels in orbit. Prepare to fire once we're in range. Captain, Marcus called over the comm. The phase drive is still active from the jump. If we engage it fully, we can pass right through their blockade. Alina smiled grimly. Even better. Helm, take us in. Full phase. The Leviathan accelerated toward the pirate blockade, its massive hull beginning to shimmer as the phase drive engaged. On the view screen, Alina watched the enemy ships growing larger, their weapon systems powering up as they detected the approaching vessel. Energy beams lanced out from the lead pirate ships, aimed directly at the Leviathan's bridge, and passed harmlessly through the phased hull. "My God," whispered the helmsman. "It actually works." "Take us straight through their formation," Alina ordered, "and prepare to drop phase on my mark." The Leviathan passed through the enemy blockade like a ghost through a wall, the enemy vessels firing futilely as their weapons had no effect. Once they were in the middle of the formation, Alina gave the command, "Drop phase and fire all weapons." The Leviathan snapped back into full material existence in the heart of the pirate fleet, its weapons arrays lighting up simultaneously. Advanced energy cannons and missile systems that humanity shouldn't have been able to develop for another century unleashed their fury on the surrounding ships. 3 pirate vessels were destroyed in the first volley. 2 more were crippled as they tried to maneuver away. The remaining ships scattered, attempting to retreat. "Don't let them escape," Alina ordered. "I want prisoners and intact computer systems." As the battle ended and the Leviathan secured the Proxima system, Alina received an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Zivtal's face appeared on the main screen, his skin a dark, stormy blue. "Commander Rise, you have violated multiple Council directives. Stand down immediately and prepare to surrender your vessel." Alina looked at the tactical display, which showed 3 Council warships approaching at high speed. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Counselor," she replied calmly. "We've just repelled a major attack on our colony. An attack using technology that only Council races should possess. I think we have some questions that need answering." Zivtal's expression remained impassive, but his skin betrayed his agitation, rippling with flashes of purple and blue. "You don't understand the forces you're meddling with, human." "Perhaps not," Alina agreed. "But I understand one thing perfectly. Humanity will no longer be held back while our people are endangered. The Leviathan stays, and if your ships approach with hostile intent, they'll discover what else she can do." As the first part of her journey aboard the Leviathan concluded, Alina knew this confrontation was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity would no longer accept its assigned place in the cosmic hierarchy, and the ship beneath her feet would be the instrument of that change. Galactic Reckoning. The 3 Council warships maintained their distance, weapons powered, but not yet targeting the Leviathan. Alina used the standoff to secure New Haven, deploying the ship's marine contingent to eliminate the remaining pirate forces on the ground. "Captain," her communications officer called, "I'm receiving transmissions from the pirates' command ship. Their systems are intact." "Put it on screen." The main display filled with data, navigational logs, communication records, and most damning of all, supply manifests. Alina's suspicions were confirmed in stark detail. The pirates were proxies, funded and equipped by certain factions within the Galactic Council to raid problematic emerging species. Human colonies weren't the only targets. The logs showed attacks on Tyrillian mining outposts and Vexeri research stations, both belonging to species that had recently begun to advance too quickly for the Council's comfort. Elena forwarded the evidence to Earth Command, then opened a channel to the waiting Council vessels. Counselor Zivtal, I have recovered interesting data from the pirate flagship. Would you care to explain why they possess weapon signatures matching the Vortani 7th Fleet? The counselor's face remained expressionless, but his skin darkened further. Piracy is a scourge throughout the galaxy. Stolen or black market technology. Stolen technology that exactly matches secure military specifications. Elena interrupted, along with communication logs showing coordination with Council security assets. The evidence suggests these pirates are actually Council operatives tasked with suppressing technological development among younger species. These are serious accusations, Commander, Zivtal responded, his voice cold. Accusations that could have severe diplomatic consequences for Earth. Not accusations. Facts. Facts I'm transmitting to every independent world in this sector. Elena leaned forward in her command chair. Unless you prefer to explain why the Council has been sabotaging emerging civilizations while preaching about protection and guidance. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Zivtal's features. You are meddling with matters beyond your understanding. There are dangers. So you keep saying. Yet your Council races possess the very technologies you prevent others from developing. Either these technologies are too dangerous for anyone, in which case the Council should abandon them too, or the danger is merely a pretext for maintaining your dominance. The standoff lasted for 3 tense days. More Council ships arrived, forming a blockade around the Proxima system, but none dared approach the Leviathan directly after observing what it had done to the pirate fleet. During this time, Marcus made a breakthrough while studying the recovered pirate technology. Elena, you need to see this, he called from the lab they'd set up in the Leviathan's science section. I've been analyzing their navigation computers, and they contain coordinates to locations outside known space. The coordinates led to a system in a nebula 30 light-years from Proxima, a region the Council had declared off-limits due to dangerous stellar instabilities. Elena made her decision. Leaving a recorded message for Admiral Zhao, she ordered the Leviathan to slip past the Council blockade using its phase technology, then jump to the mysterious coordinates. When they arrived, scanners showed no stellar instabilities, but they did detect a massive artificial structure orbiting the system's 5th planet. What is that? Elena breathed, staring at the view screen. The structure was a vast ring, 30 kilometers in diameter, clearly not of Council design. Its architecture featured sweeping curves and intricate patterns that seemed both organic and mathematical. I'm picking up energy readings, the science officer reported. It's active, and there's a breathable atmosphere inside. Elena led the away team herself. As they explored the ring, they discovered it was a repository, a vast library of technological and historical knowledge, left by a species that called themselves the Precursors. The information was freely accessible, with no locks or restrictions. They built this archive 15,000 years ago, Marcus said, poring over the translated data. According to these records, they were about to transcend physical existence, but wanted to leave their knowledge for those who would come after, which the Council found and kept for themselves. Elena finished grimly. The archive contained detailed information on technologies the Council had declared too dangerous for younger species: phase shifting, dimensional engineering, consciousness transfer, and more. But it also contained something even more valuable: historical records proving that the Council's narrative was a lie. There had been no quantum wars that nearly destroyed the galaxy. There had been a rebellion against the early Council's attempt to monopolize advanced technology, a rebellion that had been ruthlessly crushed and then erased from official history. They've been manipulating emerging species for millennia, Elena realized, finding those with potential, guiding their development along approved paths. eliminating those who develop dangerous technologies too quickly and selectively uplifting those who demonstrate proper deference to Council authority. Marcus looked up from his datapad. What do we do with this information? Elena considered for a long moment. We share it, not just with Earth, with every species being held back by Council restrictions. The Leviathan spent 2 weeks at the archive, copying as much data as its systems could store. When they finally returned to human space, they found the situation had escalated dramatically. The Council had declared Earth to be in violation of galactic law. Trade with human colonies had been embargoed, and Council military forces were gathering for what they called a police action to confiscate dangerous human technology. But humanity had not been idle during the Leviathan's absence. Admiral Zhao had used the evidence from the pirate ships to forge alliances with other restricted species. The Tyrillians and Vexari had already pledged support, and others were considering joining what was being called the Free Technology Alliance. They're planning to move against Earth within the week, Zhao informed Elena during their secure briefing. 20 dreadnoughts, supported by over 100 smaller vessels. Even with the Leviathan, we can't hope to defeat such a force. We don't need to defeat them, Elena replied, explaining what they'd discovered at the archive. We need to expose them. And I have a plan for that. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. While Earth and its allies made a very public show of preparing for defense, the Leviathan would slip behind enemy lines and penetrate to the heart of Council space, to Vorten Prime itself, homeworld of the Council's founding species. Their central archive contains the complete unaltered history of the Council, Elena explained to her crew, including records of every species they've manipulated or eliminated. If we can broadcast that data to the galaxy, along with the precursor archive information, the Council's moral authority collapses overnight. And if we're caught? Her XO asked. Elena smiled thinly. Then we make sure as much of the Council fleet is chasing us as possible, giving Earth a fighting chance. The mission was a knife edge of risk and precision. Using the phase drive to its limits, the Leviathan slipped past patrol after patrol, navigating through Council space like a ghost. When they reached Vorten Prime, they faced their greatest challenge. The planet was protected by a dimensional stabilization field specifically designed to prevent phase-shifting technology from operating. We'll have to drop out of phase to penetrate the atmosphere, Marcus warned. And once we do, every defense system on the planet will target us. Elena nodded grimly. How long will you need to hack their central archive and begin transmission? 5 minutes, maybe less if their systems aren't as secure as they should be. Then that's how long we'll give you. Combat teams to your stations. Prepare for atmospheric entry. The Leviathan dephased just inside Vorten's atmosphere, its sudden appearance triggering immediate alarm. Defense platforms orbiting the planet swiveled to lock on the human vessel, while ground-based weapons powered up. Shields at maximum. Elena ordered as the first salvos struck the Leviathan's defenses. Evasive maneuvers, but maintained position above the central archive. The ship shuddered under the assault as Marcus and his team worked frantically to penetrate the Vortani information systems. Energy beams and missiles exploded against the Leviathan's shields, gradually depleting their strength. Shields at 60%, the tactical officer reported. Council ships are moving to intercept. ETA 3 minutes. We won't last that long under this bombardment, Elena realized. She made a swift decision. Deploy countermeasures. Target their primary defense nodes, but minimal force. We're not here to kill civilians. The Leviathan's weapon systems engaged, precisely disabling key Vortani defense platforms while avoiding populated areas. Still, the attack on the Council's homeworld represented an escalation that would have unimaginable consequences. I'm in, Marcus shouted over the comm. Accessing historical database now. Beginning transmission on all frequencies. The ship rocked violently as a particularly powerful blast struck the weakening shields. Shields at 30%, came the warning. Council reinforcements arriving in 90 seconds. Elena watched the tactical display, calculating odds. Status of the data transmission: 40% complete. Another 2 minutes for full transfer. 2 minutes they didn't have. The Leviathan couldn't withstand the combined firepower of the approaching Council fleet with its shields already failing. Elena made the call that would define her career, and possibly humanity's future. Activate the phase drive. Captain, Marcus protested, if we phase while the transmission is ongoing. Not the whole ship, Elena clarified. Just enough to let their weapons pass through while maintaining our position. Can you modulate the field to those specifications? A pause. Theoretically, it's never been attempted. Now would be an excellent time to try. The Leviathan's phase drive engaged in a new configuration, creating a partial phase state that allowed enemy fire to pass harmlessly through the vessel while its communications array remained in normal space, continuing the transmission. On screens across the galaxy, the truth began to appear. Unaltered historical records showing millennia of Council manipulation, suppression, and occasional genocide, all in the name of stability and protection. By the time the Council fleet surrounded the Leviathan, the transmission was complete. Elena opened a channel to the Vortani flagship. Your secrets are exposed, she said simply. Every species in the galaxy now knows the truth about Council guidance. The choice is yours. Continue this path toward war, or begin genuine dialogue with the species you've been suppressing. The response came not from a military commander, but from an unexpected source, the High Council itself, gathering in emergency session. Their spokesperson was not Zivtal, but an elder Vorteni whose skin shimmered with colors Elena had never seen before. You have done what many thought impossible, Commander Reyes, the elder said, her voice carrying none of the condescension typical of Council representatives. You have forced us to confront our own history, a history many of us had never fully known. The elder explained that over the generations, even most Council species have been kept ignorant of their true origins. Only a small faction within each government knew the full history, maintaining the deception across millennia. What happens now? Elena asked. Chaos, initially, the elder admitted. Then, perhaps something better. Your ship and your actions have broken patterns established thousands of years ago. The Council as it existed is finished, but perhaps a true galactic community can take its place. In the days that followed, the galaxy experienced profound upheaval. Some Council factions refused to accept the new reality, launching desperate attacks against Earth and its allies. But without unified Council support, these actions were doomed to failure, especially against the Leviathan, and the growing fleet of phase-enabled vessels Earth was rapidly constructing. 3 months after the Vorten mission, representatives from 47 species gathered on neutral territory to begin drafting a new galactic charter, one based on mutual respect and technological cooperation rather than hierarchical control. Elena, now Admiral Reyes, stood at the observation window of Earth's diplomatic ship, watching the proceedings. Marcus joined her, having finally gotten the phase drive stable enough that he could leave engineering for more than an hour at a time. Do you think it will work? He asked, nodding toward the gathering. Elena considered the question. It won't be perfect. There will be conflicts, setbacks, new challenges we can't yet imagine. But for the first time, we'll be facing them as equals, not as subordinates. And the Leviathan. One ship among many, eventually, Elena said. But it will always be remembered as the vessel that changed the galaxy. As they watched, human representatives took their place at the table, not as supplicants to ancient powers, but as equals in a new galactic order. All because humanity had built a warship so powerful that it didn't just frighten the galaxy, it transformed it.